You can add a new receptacle to an existing 120 volts 20 amp circuit to power a refrigerated beverage case if certain conditions are met. Firstly, consider the circuit capacity. The total amperage of all devices connected to the circuit, including the new receptacle, must not exceed the circuit's rated amperage of 20 amps. Secondly, think about the receptacle rating. The new receptacle must be rated for at least the amperage of the device it will be powering, in this instance 7.5 amps. Thirdly, examine the circuit type. The circuit must be a dedicated circuit, which means it is not shared with any other devices or appliances. Typically, refrigerated beverage cases require a dedicated circuit to ensure they receive the full amperage they need to operate correctly and maintain a consistent temperature. Sharing a circuit with other devices can cause voltage fluctuations and overloading, potentially damaging the beverage case or leading to premature failure. In the scenario presented, it is possible to add a new receptacle to the existing 120 volts 20 amp circuit to power the refrigerated beverage case. Provided the circuit is dedicated, the receptacle is rated for at least 7.5 amps, and the total circuit amperage does not exceed 20 amps. However, for optimal performance and reliability, it is generally recommended to provide a dedicated circuit for refrigerated beverage cases. Let's delve into the specifics of each consideration to ensure a safe and efficient installation. First, let's discuss circuit capacity in greater detail. A 20 amp circuit at 120 volts provides a maximum power capacity. This capacity is determined by the circuit breaker's rating, which is designed to trip and interrupt the circuit if the current exceeds 20 amps for a sustained period. To determine if the existing circuit can handle the additional load of the refrigerated beverage case, it is essential to calculate the total amperage draw of all devices already connected to the circuit. This includes not only the nameplate amperage of each device, but also any potential surge currents that may occur when devices start up. For example, a typical convenience receptacle circuit might already power lighting fixtures, small appliances, or other equipment. If the combined amperage of these devices plus the 7.5 amps of the beverage case exceeds 20 amps, the circuit is overloaded and cannot safely support the additional load. In such cases, the circuit breaker is likely to trip frequently, interrupting power and potentially causing damage to the devices connected to the circuit. It is also important to consider the continuous load requirement. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, specifies that branch circuits should not be loaded to more than 80% of their rating when the load is considered continuous. A continuous load is defined as a load that operates for 3 hours or more at a time. If the refrigerated beverage case is expected to operate continuously, the maximum allowable load on the 20 amp circuit would be 16 amps, which is 80% of 20 amps. Therefore, the existing load on the circuit plus the 7.5 amps of the beverage case should not exceed 16 amps to comply with the NEC guidelines. Now let's consider the receptacle rating. The new receptacle installed to power the beverage case must be rated for at least the amperage of the device, which is 7.5 amps. In most cases, a standard 15 amps or 20 amps receptacle will suffice. However, it is crucial to ensure that the receptacle is of good quality and suitable for the intended use. Using a receptacle with a lower amperage rating than the device it is powering can create a fire hazard and should be avoided at all costs. The receptacle should be properly installed and securely connected to the circuit wiring. Loose connections can cause arcing and overheating, which can also lead to a fire. It is recommended to use a receptacle with a tamper-resistant design, especially in public areas like cafeterias, to prevent accidental insertion of foreign objects and reduce the risk of electrical shock. Moving on to the importance of a dedicated circuit. A dedicated circuit is one that serves only a single appliance or piece of equipment. This is particularly important for appliances with high amperage requirements or those that are sensitive to voltage fluctuations. Refrigerated beverage cases fall into this category because they require a consistent and stable power supply to maintain the desired temperature and prevent spoilage of the contents. Sharing a circuit with other devices can cause voltage drops, especially when those devices cycle on and off. Voltage drops can affect the performance of the beverage case, causing it to run less efficiently or even fail prematurely. Additionally, sharing a circuit can increase the risk of overloading, as mentioned earlier. When other devices on the circuit draw power, they reduce the amount of available amperage for the beverage case. This can lead to the circuit breaker tripping, interrupting power to the beverage case and potentially causing the contents to spoil. For these reasons, the NEC often recommends or requires dedicated circuits for appliances like refrigerators, freezers, and other equipment with significant power requirements. Even if the existing circuit technically has enough capacity to handle the additional load of the beverage case, providing a dedicated circuit is always the best practice for ensuring optimal performance and reliability. In situations where a dedicated circuit is not feasible, it is essential to carefully evaluate the existing load in the circuit and ensure that it will not be overloaded by the addition of the beverage case. It may be necessary to remove some of the existing devices from the circuit to free up enough capacity for the beverage case. In such cases, it is also important to consider the inconvenience and potential disruption caused by removing those devices. Furthermore, it is advisable to consult with a qualified electrician to assess the existing electrical system and determine the best course of action. An electrician can perform load calculations, inspect the wiring and circuit breaker, and make recommendations for safely adding the beverage case to the electrical system. They can also install a new dedicated circuit if necessary, ensuring that it complies with all applicable codes and regulations. Now, let's address the NEC recommendations for refrigerated beverage cases. The NEC provides specific guidelines for the installation of electrical equipment in commercial buildings, including requirements for branch circuits, receptacles, and overcurrent protection. While the NEC does not explicitly mandate dedicated circuits for all refrigerated beverage cases, it does provide general requirements for appliances with significant power requirements. Section 210.23 of the NEC addresses permissible loads for branch circuits. It specifies that the total load on a branch circuit should not exceed 80% of the branch circuit rating when the load is continuous. As mentioned earlier, refrigerated beverage cases are typically considered continuous loads, so this requirement applies to their installation. Additionally, Section 440 of the NEC covers air conditioning and refrigerating equipment. This section provides requirements for the sizing of conductors, overcurrent protection, and disconnecting means for refrigerating appliances. While these requirements are primarily focused on larger refrigeration systems, they can also be applied to refrigerated beverage cases to ensure safe and reliable operation. Furthermore, local codes and regulations may have additional requirements for the installation of refrigerated beverage cases. It is essential to check with the local building department or electrical inspector to ensure that the installation complies with all applicable codes and regulations. Failure to comply with these codes can result in fines, penalties, and even the shutdown of the business. In summary, adding a refrigerated beverage case to an existing 120 volts 20 amp circuit is possible, but it requires careful consideration of several factors. These factors include the circuit capacity, receptacle rating, and the benefits of a dedicated circuit. It is crucial to ensure that the total amperage of all devices connected to the circuit does not exceed the circuit's rated amperage, that the receptacle is rated for at least the amperage of the beverage case, and that the circuit is not shared with other devices that could cause voltage fluctuations or overloading. While it may be tempting to save money by using an existing circuit, providing a dedicated circuit is always the best practice for ensuring optimal performance, reliability, and safety. Consulting with a qualified electrician is highly recommended to assess the existing electrical system and determine the best course of action. An electrician can perform load calculations, inspect the wiring and circuit breaker, and make recommendations for safely adding the beverage case to the electrical system. They can also install a new dedicated circuit if necessary, ensuring that it complies with all applicable codes and regulations. By following these guidelines and working with a qualified electrician, you can safely and efficiently add a refrigerated beverage case to your cafeteria and enjoy the benefits of providing chilled beverages to your customers. Remember to prioritize safety and compliance with all applicable codes and regulations to protect your business and your customers from electrical hazards. Consider the long-term benefits of a dedicated circuit, which can save you money on energy costs, reduce the risk of equipment failure, and ensure the consistent performance of your refrigerated beverage case. With careful planning and proper installation, you can successfully integrate the beverage case into your electrical system and provide a valuable amenity to your cafeteria. Prior to adding any new load to an existing circuit, it's critical to perform a thorough load calculation. This involves identifying every device connected to the circuit and determining its amperage draw. Nameplate data on each device typically indicates its rated amperage. However, it's crucial to consider the inrush current or starting current of certain devices, such as motors or compressors, which can be significantly higher than their running amperage. The NEC provides guidelines for accounting for inrush currents in load calculations. Once you've determined the total amperage draw of all existing devices, add the 7.5 amps at the refrigerated beverage case. If the total exceeds 80% of the circuit's 20 amps rating, which is 16 amps, you should not add the beverage case to the circuit. Overloading a circuit can lead to overheating, insulation damage, and potentially electrical fires. If the load calculation indicates that the circuit has sufficient capacity, the next step is to verify the condition of the existing wiring. Inspect the wiring for any signs of damage, such as cracks, fraying, or discoloration. Check the connections at the receptacles, switches, and circuit breaker panel to ensure they are tight and secure. Loose connections can cause arcing and overheating, posing a fire hazard. If the wiring is old or damaged, it may need to be replaced before adding the beverage case. Additionally, consider the type of wiring used in the circuit. If the circuit uses aluminum wiring, it's essential to ensure that all connections are properly made with approved connectors and antioxidant compounds. Aluminum wiring expands and contracts more than copper wiring, which can lead to loose connections and corrosion over time. Copper wiring is generally preferred for electrical circuits due to its superior conductivity and corrosion resistance. When selecting a receptacle for the beverage case, choose one that is rated for at least 15 amps. A standard duplex receptacle is typically rated for 15 amps, while a heavy-duty receptacle may be rated for 20 amps. Ensure that the receptacle is compatible with the plug on the beverage case. If the beverage case has a 3-prong plug, the receptacle must also be a 3-prong receptacle to provide grounding protection. Grounding is essential for preventing electrical shock hazards and protecting sensitive electronic components from damage. When installing the receptacle, follow all applicable codes and regulations. Use the correct wiring methods, such as properly sized conductors and approved boxes and fittings. Make sure all connections are tight and secure. After installing the receptacle, test it with a circuit tester to verify that it is properly wired and grounded. If you are not comfortable performing electrical work, it's best to hire a qualified electrician to install the receptacle for you. A qualified electrician has the knowledge, skills, and experience to perform the work safely and correctly. In addition to the electrical considerations, there are also mechanical considerations to keep in mind when installing a refrigerated beverage case. Ensure that the beverage case is placed on a level surface and that it has adequate ventilation. Refrigerated beverage cases generate heat, so it's important to allow sufficient airflow around the unit to prevent overheating. Do not block the vents or place the beverage case in a confined space. Also, consider the location of the beverage case relative to other equipment and fixtures. Ensure that it does not obstruct walkways or create a safety hazard. Follow all manufacturer's instructions for installation and operation. Proper installation and maintenance are essential for ensuring the long-term performance and reliability of the beverage case. Regularly clean the beverage case to prevent the buildup of dust and debris. Check the door seals to ensure they are tight and prevent air leaks. If the beverage case is not cooling properly, contact a qualified technician for service. Remember that electrical codes and regulations vary depending on your location. It's essential to check with your local building department or electrical inspector to ensure that your installation complies with all applicable requirements. Failure to comply with these codes can result in fines, penalties, and even the shutdown of your business. By following these guidelines and working with qualified professionals, you can safely and efficiently add a refrigerated beverage case to your cafeteria and provide a valuable amenity to your customers.